Huddle Up Podcast is sponsored by Arena Eats. Log on to the website arenaeats.app, that's arenaeats.app, for the ultimate fan experience. At your favorite sports venue, Arena Eats mobile app, pre-order, express pickup, and in-seat delivery. How do you place your order?
Hey, everyone in, let's go. Huddle up on 3. 1, 2, 3, huddle up.
No one, and I mean no one, comes into our house and pushes us around. This is your game now, gentlemen.
Many doubted we'd ever see it. But here it is. The return to glory.
Fans on their feet. Rally towels are being waved. Brad Lidge stretches. The 0-2 pitch. Swing and a miss. Struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
Eller for the draw. And as the puck drops, the words that D.C. fans have been waiting to hear since 1974, the Washington Capitals are the 2018 Stanley Cup champions.
And now, welcome everyone to the Huddle Up Podcast.
We're not going to be fucking sucked this year. We're the Stanley Cup champions. Yeah!
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Huddle Up Podcast. We are live, of course, on our Facebook page as well as our YouTube and Twitter page as well. If you're to like and a share, we'd appreciate that. Get as many people in here as possible. Interact with us in the comments if you'd like, and we will interact with you throughout the show. We appreciate you following us and supporting us as always. Make sure you go to our to all of our social media and give us a follow there. Go to our YouTube channel. And subscribe to us there. Subscribe on all podcast platforms. Make sure you check out our home network, NGSC Sports at ngscsports.com. We stream daily at leapsports.com. And the sponsor of this show, of course, is the arenaeats.app. So make sure you check them out as well. I think it's only going to be me and Sean this week, but that's fine. Matt, unable to join. Dave may jump on later, like do a drive-by like he did a week ago, but Sean, welcome in, bud.
Yo ho ho, yo! You still got the very very pleased to see the Harry Callis showing up in the
you guys, man. You asked nicely, so I figured I'd throw it in there.
And I knew it was coming. I didn't know where in the intro. I didn't get to click the link you sent me, and I kind of just it was on the back burner, and I never got to it, and. I got goosebumps again every time I hear the call. Goosebumps.
It never. It's the same thing with those Capitals clips for me. Like it's truly
just the voice of Harry Callis calling it, like just the gold standard in my opinion as far as baseball voices go. And just to hear it, it was unbelievable. Maybe with enough push. Still hearing a lot of caps and various things. Maybe sneak in a little Super Bowl 52 call from
look, I cut out the Cowboys clip. You're probably not going to
sneak in.
You're probably not going to get an Eagles clip. Let me just
Jake seems to feel like it's all caps everything.
Let
all
me
caps.
Well, no, there was just there's actually less Caps clips now because there was
It's
two.
true. There are less. We've slowly faded into a
that were
Tiger
longer.
Woods.
This
We
one,
got a Tiger Woods hidden in there.
Well, the Tiger and the Miracles were there. Then the Capitals clip. There's two now. There was two before, but the two before they were longer. This one's shorter, and then we get the Ovechkin. And quite frankly, if you don't like the Ovechkin clip, then I don't know what to tell you, because we're not going to be fucking sucked this year is a fantastic clip, no matter who you are. Yeah, Tyler says, "Will Tampa force a game 7?" That game underway now. They're up 1-0. I mean, it's only the top two, but we will keep track of that one as long as we're on the air.
And props to my man Jake again with the dope nickname, the Arozarena by any other name. One of the best nicknames not being used on the mothership and wherever else. Needs to be used everywhere. Arozarena by any other name.
There we
Still
go.
Arozarena, just in case you were wondering the tail end of that.
So obviously, Sean, one of the biggest stories in college football this past weekend was the return of the Big Ten, and with the return of the Big Ten gave us one of our biggest upsets so far of the college football season, and that came in Bloomington, Indiana. The Hoosiers playing a team that you and I, being originally you and me still from Central Pennsylvania, we know the team, we know the fans all so well. And it came down to in overtime. The Hoosiers went for two. They and I'm gonna put the picture up here. You know, this is the shot. Now this from a bit of an angle. But we've seen the shot, we've seen the play. And this got everybody's reaction. Obviously, for people who don't like Penn State are going to agree with the call. People who love Penn State are not going to like the call. First off, I knew that I said, because my wife and I were watching the game, and when they scored the touchdown, I said, I bet they go for two. Because at that point, what is Indiana? Indiana has nothing to lose at that. They've already won. They've already won their battle for that game. And we've seen this before. When you have a team that's the underdog, a big underdog, they go for two. Sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. But if you keep kicking, the longer that game goes on, eventually that hand gets played to Penn State, because they arguably are the better team.
Well, sure, and having the chance to go second there, you give up the touchdown, you got to go in from 25 yards. Wasn't an easy march necessarily. I mean they did get in, but that may be your last chance to control a walk-off, because you got to take the ball first, and if you can't get in the end zone, or heaven forbid miss a field goal, where you give Penn State that advantage to see what they need to do, you can going for two was to me a no-brainer there, especially since you kind of let Penn State come back in it. You had a chance to lose it in regulation, and were able to kind of hang in there and have that chance to put it away. Why wouldn't you? Far as the call goes, watching in real time, when you're where that official is on the outside of the pylon, and the pylon comes towards you, which is what it did. Whether that ball touched out of bounds, on the line, whatever happened, something hit the inside of that pylon, because it came out towards the sideline. So for him to see that and see where the stretch was, and the initial stretch, I was like, he's got it. When the ball started dropping, he was held back a lot farther than I thought he would be. When you slow it down 100 times, it makes it real easy, if you don't want it to be in, to see it that way. Because it is real close, whether that, the more I watch it, the more I think the tip did cross the edge of the goal line. It was just an issue of, did it happen before it touched out of bounds? And, I think the best judgment call was made at the time on the field. And I think that the call to overturn it would have been a way bigger mishandling of the situation than to leave it stand. They didn't say confirmed. It was just one of those scenarios where if they would have called him short, I don't think there's any way they would have called it the other way. So, whether it was a cross or not, only the sports gods and the tip of that football may know for sure. But I don't think the officials blew anything at the end of that game. And if you're Penn State and you're mad at an official, let's just remember what the spread on that game was, and that you were planning on wandering into Ohio State with a chance to maybe crack the top 4. So that's not happening. And, it's just one of those. Last week I talked about how Penn State may be getting Ohio State at a good time because the wheels may not be rolling. I think maybe they fell victim to that, and Indiana caught them at the right time, and they just weren't quite there and had the wheels kind of, they didn't get spinning fast enough, quick enough, and you kind of let a home team catch you off guard.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think you made a great point with the call that was made on the field with the official. I think the right call was made on the field. And when you went to review, and I know, we got a lot of comments on Facebook and Twitter. We appreciate all the comments. I'm not going to be able to get them all here. Obviously, if you can guess, the Penn State faithful not happy with the call. People who are not Penn State fans tend to agree. But the bottom line is, not only do you not, because there was no shot from directly on the goal line. Both the picture I shared here in the video and the angle of the videos that were shown on the replay all came at an angle. So first off, that's a disadvantage if you're Penn State. Secondly, I've watched this play in slow motion so many times, and I'm still not 100% sure that the tip of the ball didn't break the plane of the end zone before it even touched the pylon and or out of bounds.
Yeah, while it was in the air, you mean? While it was airborne. And that's what I kept looking at too, is that may have already crossed.
Yeah, and that's another reason why I think you cannot overturn this. Regardless of what the call on the field was, I think the decision to uphold the call on the field is the right decision, because there was, whether you agree with it or not, the bottom line in replay to overturn a call is it has to be indisputable.
Right.
And I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I'm probably gonna make some friends of mine mad that are Penn State fans. But if you try and tell me that the video is inconclusive, like indisputable, that ball was out of bounds, you're lying to yourself.
Yeah,
you're mad because you lost. And don't get me wrong.
You can be mad.
Right, you can be mad. If I was Notre Dame, I'd be mad. If this was Notre Dame losing that way, I'd be mad. So I'm not faulting you for being mad. I'm faulting you for after the initial anger is there, for not being able to step back and say, okay.
Right. I mean, it's going to cloud your judgment at the moment of the play, but to let it cloud your judgment 2 and 3 and 4 days later, you got to let it go, man. Like, you got to move on.
And that's the bottom line. We have some great conversation here with Tyler and Tanner. Tanner says they made the right call by letting the decision on the field stand, not enough to overturn. Same with Tyler. They both agree. And yeah, I'm 100% with Tyler. Penn State shouldn't have lost the game. 100%. Like, Penn State did this to themselves. Penn State put themselves in the situation. And another thing that Penn State fans don't want to admit, or you should be angry about as well, is the fact that not only did the running back Ford, I think his name is, he should have went down after he had the first down. Sure, that's also a kid who's a sophomore who only carried like 26 times last year, who has open field in front of him. Instinct takes over there. I think you should also be mad at James Franklin, because you had 1 minute and 45 seconds. Indiana had one timeout. You had 1st and 10. At the very least, you take 3 knees. You're going to get the ball down to about 20 seconds, kick a field goal, and then Indiana has to, go down and score a touchdown. Not even kick a field goal. They have to score a touchdown at that point. So I think, the defense was bad. The quarterback play was bad for the first 3 quarters. This looked like a team that was not prepared. I also don't think Penn State, you can look at those preseason rankings all you want. And this is why, especially this year, preseason rankings aren't worth the paper they're printed on. This isn't the number 2 team in the Big Ten. They're not. And all the analysts saying that is Penn State going to be the team to knock off Ohio State? No. The defense stinks. The secondary is real bad. So not only is Ohio State going to torch you, there's going to be other teams in the Big Ten that are probably going to torch you this year, or at least
very possible. It's very possible. I mean, I know we'll probably get to our picks a little bit later, but Michigan looked way stronger than I expected them to, especially out of the chute. So,
imagine what having not Shea Patterson under center will do for you.
It's unreal how he was in there that long. But you're right. There's other teams, and there's a few teams that probably aren't as good, top to bottom as Penn State that are going to give them a little bit of a run, because if they can't tighten up that defense, like you said, I mean, Indiana for a good chunk of that game, even though they weren't scoring points every time, was able to move the ball pretty much every drive they had. So I don't, I think, with the evolution of the game, the kind of mobile quarterback, that obviously surprised them, even though you knew who he was. It's a whole different ballgame when you're asked to go out there and actually make the stop.
Absolutely. Tyler, that's a question here. Does college football need pylon cams? I think all football can benefit from them, but you have to make them really good. And I think that's where the problem is, because I think ESPN, I think, uses them in the NFL as like kind of a trial thing. They're not an official.
No, they don't get used for reviews.
The problem I think with pylon cams is obviously the pylons can be knocked over, and that they may not necessarily come into play, or they can be easily blocked. And I know other camera angles can be blocked as well, but I think you and I have talked about, not on this show, but with the level of technology, and we have the NFL Next Gen stats that can tell me that DK Metcalf reached a top speed of 22.47 miles per hour and ran 109 yards to catch up to Budda Baker. And they can tell
within minutes, by the way, within minutes,
within about a minute and a half. So, and it's because of like wearable technology and things like, so you can't tell me that we can't be far, or we could already potentially be there, that they couldn't put some sort of chip in each end of the football and put sensors on the goal line, at the plane of the goal line, that could basically put up like a force field, almost
and
like
tell me whether the ball crossed it, right?
Almost like an invisible dog fence.
Walmart can tell me if I'm walking one of their bottles of cologne out the front door,
right?
But we can't figure out if a football's crossing the plane of a goal line. It's 2020.
You got our dad a baseball jersey in Disney that they forgot to take the tag off, that buzzed in a store up here when you tried to take it back.
Yeah, tried to take a return and it buzzed it.
So you can't.
I don't know.
You can't put a chip in a football in 2020.
We've had doors that open themselves for decades.
Exactly.
Can't get a goal line that does the same thing. Unless you're the Jets defense, then it opens itself.
Yeah, really. So I think that should be something that, and maybe it already is, and maybe that's a technology.
I'm sure it has to be something they're working on. But I just never really understood like how we have, and the pylon cam is one where like, yeah, it's great. The other thing is like much like first down markers, they're not always true. If they are getting knocked down, you'd have to make sure that it had a designated secure spot, that it wouldn't move, and it had it's very easy for that camera to get skewed and not be a true shot down the goal line too. But we have overhead cams, zip line cams, blimp cams. We have all these cams, and yet every time it goes to review, there's not a single one that looks straight down on the goal line from the angle of that plane. That's just baffling to me, especially in domes and things. I don't understand how you don't just have it.
I think it was like the Super Bowl around like the year 2000 or 2003 or something like that, where they had all of those cameras around the perimeter of the thing so that they could do like the 360 during the halftime show. And so I'm like,
yeah.
Like, why are we not using some of this 20 years later in the thing? And yeah, Tanner says here it's a bit wild. Any of the Big Ten teams are even ranked in the top 10 without playing a game.
One of them has moved into the top 4, in case anybody wanted to talk about it.
And I mean, there was a good point, man. And this comes down to my issue with preseason rankings every year in general, but this year even more. And Ohio State jumped Notre Dame. did I think it was kind of ridiculous? Sure, but 2 weeks from now, Notre Dame plays Clemson. If Notre Dame beats Clemson, they're probably going to be the number one team in the country, and deservedly so. If they lose, they're going to fall. So it doesn't really bother me at this point that they are above Notre Dame. Like, it's a little annoying. I also saw like an article today, like somebody was talking about like Notre Dame shouldn't even be in the top 5 because of how bad their schedule is. I'm like, okay, so you want us to join a conference to legitimize ourselves.
Right.
Now we're in one and you're bitching that our schedule's too soft. Put it this way. You just hate Notre Dame.
You just tell us.
Just tell us
just be like, we hate you guys. And I'll be like, okay, that's fair. You're allowed to hate us.
But yeah, it's for me, preseason rankings are silly. This year it's even worse because conferences and things are starting at different times. So it is what it is. If Ohio State runs the table and they do it convincingly, Ohio State belongs in the top 4. Rankings in the middle of October normally are useless. This year even worse because there's still two whole months of football till we get to the college football playoff rankings. So I try not to get too riled up about rankings at this point. But ultimately, for me, and we'll move on here. The correct call was made. The decision on the field,
touchdown stance.
Yeah, the 2-point stands. Penn State lost. If you shouldn't have been in that spot to begin with, you did it to yourself. Be mad about it. That's fine. I'd be mad about it too. But it's not the official's fault for A, the call on the field, and B, upholding the call on the field because there was nothing there to overturn.
And yes, Jake, it was a touchdown. It was good. Yes, good conversion.
Before we one other like short thing before we get to the games this weekend in college football is I saw that Ryan Day, the head coach of Ohio State, had like apologized in the post game for, I guess, scoring a touchdown late, and kind of that it could have been looked at as he was running up the score a bit on Nebraska. And now normally I would be like, yeah, that was kind of a dick thing to do. However, I'm actually going to defend that decision. And if you're a Big Ten team, maybe not Ohio State, because you could probably be safe if you just go undefeated. But if you're Michigan, if you're Wisconsin, if you're Minnesota, Penn State, any of those teams that have to come anywhere from below number 10, if you want to make it to the college football playoff, you're gonna have at least one less game than everybody else.
You're gonna have to murder teams.
You're gonna have to score big. So you should not have to apologize for, quote, running up the score. And his starters weren't in the game at that point. So, like, what else are you really supposed to do?
Look, if you don't want a team to score on, you stop them.
Right.
Like, I mean, I've had situations where I've watched games and been like, that's running up the score. But they're very few and far between, and I couldn't even tell you what the examples of them are. I just remember there's a couple times I'm like, that seems a little out of hand. But, like, for the most part, as long as you're not, heaving long shots down the field. But there's a lot of times teams are trying to make a comeback that they're like, please run actual plays so we can try to take the ball back. In that situation, like, and the way college football has always been, at least over the last few decades, it's coming. Like, you should just expect scores to reign until the zeros.
Too, in a year like this, I think you can also justify it too, because, if you have a backup quarterback that's never taken a live snap before, never thrown a pass in a game, that's practice that is invaluable, especially because what happened? Look at Wisconsin right now. They're going to be on their 4th string quarterback possibly for the next 3 weeks because 3 quarterbacks have tested positive for COVID. So, and the Big Ten, based on their rules for the season, it's 21 days that
quarantine.
Of quarantine. So that's 3 games.
That's unreal. That's a lot. That's half your schedule almost.
Right. So, those guys, and obviously 3 quarterbacks testing positive is an extreme. But if you're Ohio State, what if Justin Fields tests positive? Now you're with a backup quarterback that maybe has never taken a live snap in a college football game. So, I have no issue with people running up this score right now, especially think of the Joe Kelly meme when people complain about the score being run up. Yeah, I mean it'd be different if starters were in the game, if if you're just out there heaving bombs, but if you don't want somebody to score, stop you. All right, Sean, let's go to the matchups this weekend. We actually have 5. Now there was only one game with 2 teams in the top 25 playing each other, so I pulled some other ones. Looking at the overall from this past weekend, I've made up ground in both the NFL and college.
Yeah, I had an off week.
You did,
not
yeah.
go as well as planned. I'm glad I didn't decide to start putting money on things.
I was 4-0 in college football this past weekend, so I'm back above 500, 10-9. You went 2 for 2, or 2-2. So you're 16-3 now overall in college for the year. So the first one I want to look at, I'm bummed. Actually, my wife is bummed that Matt is not with us this week because Dana was really curious to see what Matt was going to have to say about the Michigan Wolverines, especially if
maybe that's why he's not on.
Yeah, he's running scared. I don't blame him either. It's but it is the battle for the Paul Bunyan Trophy. Michigan State, who coming off of their loss to Rutgers
Yikes.
First Big Ten win. We'll talk about them here in a second. First Big Ten win since 2017. Greg Schiano back there in Rutgers. Look out. Michigan State 0-1 at the number 13 Michigan Wolverines. They're a 25-point home favorite. 53 is the over-under on this one, noon on Fox. I'm going to just keep this thing rolling. I'm going to go Michigan plus. Michigan State is bad. So I'm going to keep the Wolverines rolling. I'm going to go the over. Michigan dropped, 49 points against a pretty good Minnesota team. Michigan might hit that over number themselves this weekend. So I got Michigan and the over.
Yeah, I usually try to, even if I'm agreeing with you, talk up the other team somehow and bring up a reason why they're gonna come in here and like make a stand. Maybe it's a Heisman Trophy candidate or a big rivalry game, and I don't think this rivalry is strong enough to help anybody in East Lansing. The good news is it's got to be a bounce back game even if you lose, because a big loss to Michigan is a lot better than any loss to Rutgers. So congratulations on the bounce back ahead of time. Either way, my only fear on the over-under was going to be, can Michigan State score enough points to push it? I'm like you said, I think Michigan has a shot to score just as many on their own. I'm going to take the over. I think we're going to go even on this one. I don't think there's any way it doesn't go Michigan's way with the points, and I'll take the over with you because it's always safer bet than under.
Yeah, exactly. All right, then we go number 20, Coastal Carolina. They're 5-0, a 1-point road favorite at Georgia State. 64.5 is the over/under. Georgia State 2-2. This one at noon on ESPNU. I don't know much about either of those teams, but I love Coastal Carolina's colors. I love their teal field, even though they're not playing on the teal field this weekend. So I'm going to go Coastal Carolina, but I'm going to go the under just because I don't know anything about these teams. But I'm going to take Coastal Carolina to cover that mighty one.
Yeah, Coastal Carolina sneaking into the top 25. You got to, something good has to have shown somewhere for them to have snuck in there. They did have 2. You can call them quality. You can argue with me if you want, but they did beat a Kansas team that typically, even in a bad Big 12 situation, probably would have beaten Coastal Carolina, especially if it was basketball. Although Coastal Carolina, Kansas sounds like a beginning of the NCAA tournament game.
Sure does.
But they beat an Arkansas State team that's like, okay, they're usually there. They're usually beating somebody. I can't tell you much about Arkansas State other than that it's the name that I recognized and it's the only other win that I think matters. But the bottom line is, in this type of game, looking at their track records, I'm going to take Coastal Carolina with you. They got a stellar set of colors. I have to agree with you there. And I believe their mascot, the Chanticleers, Chanticleers?
I think that sounds about right.
I don't even know what that is.
Here, just stop.
Yeah, he's a KU fan. I know you're not. I know you weren't a KU fan when you had our fat throwaway coach from Notre Dame coaching there for a couple of years. Nobody cared about that football team. He didn't care about that football team. Charlie Weiss.
I
think they're still paying Charlie Weiss. And so
I think Notre Dame just stopped paying him about a year ago.
But yeah, I'm gonna take the Chanticleers and the over, because any over under that's set at 63 wants me to bet under. I'm going over.
Let me go back to the Big Ten. We have number 17, Indiana. They are 1-0. They're a 13-point home favorite here against 1-0 Rutgers. Again, Greg Schiano back there. I'm not saying this team's going to compete for a Big Ten title anytime soon, but Greg Schiano is going to get that team back, at least in relevancy, and don't be surprised if they pull off some upsets here, over the next couple of seasons. 52.5 is the over-under. This one at 3:30 on the Big Ten Network. I have Indiana even covering that 13. I think that Indiana squad looked pretty good. I don't know how good Penn State is, but when you look at some of these big teams in the Big Ten, Penn State still, should be better, should be more physical than some of these teams. So I like Indiana. I think they're going to cover the 13, but I'm going to go the under. I don't have a sense for either of these teams totally yet.
Yeah, I think the spread's a little large for me to be as comfortable as I thought I'd be picking it. If it had been about 7, I'd tell you this was my lock of the week. But I think at that spread, there is a risk that somehow Rutgers covers it, especially if Indiana decides to turn the ball over. Rutgers was pretty good at taking advantage of some miscues by Michigan State, and there were plenty of them. But I think Rutgers is more for real than they have been. But I don't think it's there. I think they're a team that's going to kind of push over the next few years, like you said. It's not time. I don't think it's necessarily Indiana's time either. But in this particular matchup, I'm going to take Indiana. I'm going to take them to cover. And as far as an over-under in this one, we got it at where?
I have it at 52.5.
Yeah, let's go over again. Why not? That one I don't like, but I'll go over with. I disagree somewhere here, though. Let me find one.
Somewhere. All right. Then we go to Texas. They're 2-2 at number 6, Oklahoma State, who is 4-0. They're a 3-point home favorite. 58.5 is the over-under on this one. 4:00 on Fox. Look, Texas has not been very good this year. Inconsistent at best at times. But that an unranked team and a 3-point spread at home. I feel like somebody knows something there. So I'm going to actually take Texas not only to cover, I think they're going to win this game outright. And just not that the Big 12 realistically had a shot for a college football playoff, but I think this ends any of that discussion completely. So Texas wins, and it's the Big 12. I'm taking the over.
Yeah, you can mark me down for the over on this one without me even going through my bit here. But that's the first thing I noticed right away. Anytime they're telling you that the number 6 team in the country is only a 3-point favorite, and you're all about going in on them, it makes it real hard to go against the other way. But because you already took my hype and took Texas anyway, I'm going to ride Oklahoma State. We're going to take the Cowboys. And you can save that sound bit if you want, but I will fight to the teeth that it was Oklahoma State. I think it may just be one of those ones. Sometimes you get this scenario where people aren't buying Oklahoma State for as real, and it was going to be real hard to get folks to bet on Texas anyway. So maybe by making it that close, it was kind of that sneaky play where they wanted folks like you to jump on that spread, take Texas, and then watch them get obliterated. Oklahoma State's got a lot of speed on that team, and I'm not saying Baylor didn't, and I know Texas just had a huge win over the Bears, but I don't see a repeat there. I think it's kind of let down week for Texas, especially on the road. I'm going to take the Cowboys and the over.
All right, very good. And then the last one, Sean, in college, before we take our break, number 3, Ohio State. They are 1-0, 10-point road favorite at number 18, Penn State, 0-1. The over-under on this one, 62.5, 7:30 on ABC. If COVID's not a thing, pandemic's not a thing, this game was going to be your night game, your whiteout at Penn State. That is not going to be the case. That crowd is not going to be a factor. I watched the Indiana Hoosiers put up 38 on this Penn State team. It is Ohio State. It is Ohio State plus. It is the over, and you can just...
You better lock it up. You better lock it up. No, you lock it up. You lock it up. Lock it up. Lock it up.
Ohio State actually just scored their first touchdown.
They already scored? That's incredible.
They're already 7-0 Ohio State.
Incredibly fast start. These Buckeyes are fast. Anyway, I'm going to kind of roll with you here. The one thing I will say about the Indiana loss is it may actually help their cause a little bit in this game in a weird way. I think what fans are going to be allowed there are going to be extra loud because all of a sudden this is your only shot at something at this point. I think if you drop this game, then all of a sudden the Big Ten championship's out. There's not even in a bad season, say they would have lost, 3 or 4 games this year, but had won this whiteout game, people would still talk about that whiteout game and how great that game was, and it would make this season relevant. And so they do have that going for them. You want to make this season relevant, you want to do something, this is going to be the one. Unfortunately, I didn't see anything against Indiana that showed me they're ready for anything Ohio State's going to throw at them. They looked kind of confused and bewildered and just outrun on a lot of the plays Indiana ran. And if you're outrun by the Hoosiers, those Buckeyes are already past you. So I'm going to take the Buckeyes. I'm going to take them to cover. I'm going to take the over as well. And you can double lock that one up.
You better lock it up. You better lock it up. No, you lock it up. You lock it up. Lock it up. Lock it up.
All right. And we are going to pause here, pay some bills from our sponsor, and make sure you stick with us on the other side. We got NFL picks, a World Series check-in, and we're going to talk about the Dallas Cowboys. Yikes. Stick with us. Huddle Up Live.
Messages. We'll be right back.
Huddle Up Podcast is sponsored by Arena Eats. Log on to the website arenaeats.app. That's arenaeats.app for the ultimate fan experience. At your favorite sports venue, Arena Eats mobile app, pre-order, express pickup, and in-seat delivery. How do you place your order? You're listening to NGSC Sports Radio. Hear us live on ngscsports.com, where you can get awesome analysis on all things sports. Or check out our podcasts on iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, and much more. For our latest videos, subscribe to NGSC Sports YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter at NGSC Sports, and like us on Facebook. NGSC Sports. We never stop. Welcome back to the Huddle Up Podcast. Here live on our Twitter page, our Facebook page, and our YouTube channel. Make sure you're subscribed and following along with us on all of those if you are not already. We appreciate that. And for those following along and interacting with us, we appreciate that as well. Give it a like, give it a share, and leave some comments, and we'll interact with you as the rest of the show goes on. Sean, a few news topics in the NFL before we get to our game picks for the week. You got a new wide receiver down there in Tampa Bay, Sean. That is the big news. Officially signed today, Antonio Brown. We posted earlier the contract details, and man, they're going for it. They want it.
Oh, they do. And Tom wants it, and Tom says, I need this. It's just kind of baffling watching, a guy like Bruce Arians who, despite, and I'm not saying Jameis had a real voice down here, but despite his struggles in Arians' offense and the changes that people pointed, like, playing to his strength more, simplifying the offense thing. Like, it was like, no, I'm a system coach. It's my team. But like, it was just kind of this whole, like, well, he can't buy into Arians' system. And, you get a guy like Tom down here who's like, another wide receiver would be nice. And they're like, well, Tom, he's been in trouble with the law in the league, and it doesn't matter. These 2 Pro Bowl wide receivers aren't enough. I need to make sure that I have all the crutches I need. So I don't know.
Exactly what I need as a Mike Evans fantasy owner. The
Yeah.
guy's already allergic to touchdowns this year. Hell, he's allergic to catches this year. And now you're going to put Antonio Brown in there.
I do know that if you drive down to the shore of the bay here in St. Petersburg and put your ear kind of towards the water, you can already hear Antonio Brown's mouth from the other side. So that's pretty exciting. Look, I don't think fantasy owners of the other receivers should be panicking as far as the kind of their run to the playoffs. My fear would be kind of late in the season. But let's be honest, if your fantasy wide receiver is Mike Evans or Chris Godwin, the same situation should be scaring you way more than Antonio Brown. It's the fact that neither one of them has 2 legs that can seem to make it more than 4 games in a row. So let's not worry about Antonio Brown cutting into their targets. I'd be much more worried about their legs. If anything, Antonio Brown's going to eat into some targets, which may, prevent the number of hits they're taking in a game. Instead of, 7 catches on 14 targets, maybe you can hope for 7 out of 8, maybe catch every single one of them. So I don't think I do see Dan chiming in from the LTZ, the LAN. I don't know what Lancaster's thing is. But do any mid-season signings actually ever make a big difference? Occasionally, not usually from like a big fantasy perspective or a big numbers perspective. But you're right. As long as it's not a scenario where you're replacing somebody who's hurt, it's rarely going to be a situation like that. It's very rare that this late in the season that person is a multi-time MVP and Super Bowl winner. That makes it kind of a different ball game. And I think the guy still has a lot of talent. I think your big fear if you're Tampa Bay is you can't get him too involved in the offense, because all it takes is one slip and the league's going to jump on the guy.
Sure.
He doesn't have a lot of rope to work with here. So, if he's cleaned up his act, great. If he can do something with Tampa, good for him, I guess. But
and it's a risk-free signing for Tampa. Low.
They're not going to.
It's
absolutely.
an incentive laden. So, it's on it's on Antonio Brown to not not screw it up. The closest one you can even make a comparison to here is when the Cowboys traded for Amari Cooper. And he paid off pretty good dividends, in the short term. The other thing you have a little bit of an advantage is, even though it was, a week or 2, but Brady has worked with Antonio Brown. Now they haven't worked together in an Arians offense. So will it have immediate impact? Maybe, probably not. But if Brown can stay out of his own way, I think this has more potential late in the season and into the playoffs, which is why I think you make this signing. I don't think you're worried about it in the short term. I think you're looking January, February, which if he can stay out of his own way, you get integrated. Because we saw the first couple weeks of the season, Brady didn't look like himself. All of a sudden, he's starting to look like himself again. Gronk's starting to look like himself again. The Tampa team's starting to look a little bit dangerous. So, it's a matter more of Brown staying out of his own way. The guy, I kind of compare him in a way, and I know we've talked about this, obviously not on the show before, but almost like a guy like Terrell Owens, who is always going to be physically ready to play. And I think Antonio Brown physically ready to play. It's a matter, can he stay out of his own way mentally and stuff like that is going to be the big question.
Well, yeah. And I think I think as far as the Antonio Brown signing, I see about an insurance policy. Jake asking, is there an insurance policy on the contract? I'd imagine very little of it is guaranteed. You know, it's a small signing, but it's a 1-year deal. So even if there's not a huge insurance policy, that 1 year is a big insurance policy in itself. You're getting them for, half the games. But he makes a good point. He says it helps Mike Evans. I would agree. I think anything to draw attention away from him. Mike Evans is tremendous at the point of the catch. And when you're down a Godwin and your other guys on the field are named Scotty Miller, Scotty don't. These guys are good skill players. And yeah, exactly. 1 week you're like, oh, he's the best fantasy signing in the world, and the next 2 weeks, 3 targets. So don't buy the Scotty Miller hype just yet. But it's gone. He has 1 week left. You want to buy in on Scotty Miller one time, this is the week. Try him out. Maybe he gets a deep ball. Maybe he scores a touchdown. Maybe he doesn't. And even if he does, cut him because Antonio Brown's coming to town to take all his catches.
Yeah, this is your week.
But Antonio Brown, like you said, not a huge risk, but he should draw some attention, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's a decoy early. Scotty doesn't know. Thank you, Dan. Does Scotty know? No, Scotty doesn't know. What Scotty doesn't know is that he's about to have 0 targets a game after this week coming up, so he better get open. But from the sound of things down here, people are pretty excited about it, I guess. Obviously you would. I do often, the question I brought up is, is always this big thing of, when Brady leaves Belichick, like if either of them are going to win another title, who's going to do it? And I think people always kind of sided on the Belichick side of things. He'll find a way to win with whoever it is. That's proving to be false. Turns out Cam Newton, not the next big thing, as far as QB rating and yeah. Cam Newton's no Matt Castle, I'll tell you that. But
ain't that the truth?
But Tom Brady, like he comes down, he's going to save that hapless franchise. He's going to be the, do you say like when you start signing, like all of a sudden Gronk comes to town too, and now you got an Antonio Brown. If Antonio Brown proves to be anything, worth it, and you look at the defense and go, well, I guess the defense last year was real. Did Tom really save it? Like, I know these two probably wouldn't have signed here, were Tom not the, at the helm. So
yeah, I don't think you get Gronk and Brown without Tom Brady.
It's true, and in that sense, maybe he does. But it would be. I'm curious to see how that spells out. I'm sure the folks here in Tampa are just fine with whatever the situation is. You want to play with Tom, come play with Tom.
I'm just happy. I'm obviously not happy that another NFC team is potentially going to win the Super Bowl. But as somebody who does like to watch the world burn a little bit, I'm going to enjoy watching sports media and sports Twitter explode if Tom Brady wins a Super Bowl somewhere else.
James, you're a Cowboys fan, and I'm an Eagles fan. More years than not, we're gonna watch another NFC team have a chance to win.
Well,
Super Bowl.
but actually win. Like regardless, I always pull for a AFC team. Because I don't want any other NFC team. But if Brady does it, I've always said this. Tom Brady's never hurt me. Like obviously people around here, Steelers fans, Ravens fans, Eagles fans, Brady's hurt you guys. So I get it. I have friends who are Broncos fans. I get it. He's hurt you. He's never
Eagles fans hate Tom Brady or just like kidding themselves. Like I get it. He beat us in the Super Bowl. Like we got him back. But like, there's no Eagles fan that could possibly, in any realistic fashion, going into that Super Bowl where you had a Terrell Owens on one leg going in against that team that was going on. We got to go Broncos. Drew Lock. But there was no way anybody was going to honestly predict that the Eagles were going to win that. If I said Eagles would have needed a perfect game, Brady would have had to make a bunch of mistakes. We did the opposite. Made our mistakes, and still were within a field goal of winning that game. So you can blame it on Donovan throwing up, nerves, whatever you want to call it. That was a gutsy showing by both squads. Brady, there was no reason Brady didn't break your heart in that one.
Yeah, Tom
they were winning. They were winning the whole time.
So I've always had zero issue with the Patriots, and watching somebody be that good at what they do is just it's masterful. Like
call him a cheater if you want, but I'd rather have somebody that wants to win bad enough to cheat then I'd rather have that than somebody who just doesn't mind losing.
Or that won't stand up when your quarterback gets his head taken clean off his body. Transition here.
Ooh, sounds like some hurt feelings there, James. I think you got a little something irritating you there.
Obviously Cowboys Twitter is just an absolute mess at this point. Fans ready to sell Mike McCarthy up the river already. 7 games in. Which, like, my question, it wasn't a question of the week because I think the Indiana topic had much more meat on the bone. But like people saying, like, should Mike McCarthy be on the hot seat? Is he on the hot seat? Look, it's hard enough to come into a team like Dallas where a head coach has arguably, very little to zero control. And then now you have to do this with a weird camp, a weird offseason, no scrimmages, no preseason, Dak breaking his ankle. Now you have Andy Dalton. You're on second and third string offensive line. Your defense is bad. Mike Nolan's defenses are historically terrible. Your mistake there is probably having Mike Nolan as your DC. He should be one to go. Kellen Moore should probably find a new place to work too as an OC. That may have been a poor choice. But I'm not willing to even if the Cowboys finish 2-14, I'm not willing to say let's bag the Mike McCarthy experience after game 1. Like, the Cowboys have been with Jason Garrett and then Wade Phillips and Dave Campo for decades. And it is a culture of failure. It is a culture of losing. That's going to take more than 7 weeks and no preseason to fix. This notion that Mike McCarthy, even if the Cowboys are at full strength, like they should be a lot better than they are. But with that, the way the cookies have crumbled so far in the first 7 weeks this year, and that you're potentially starting Ben DiNucci in Philadelphia this Sunday, that's not great. Like, that's just not great. So, I'm not happy about it. However, I'm not ready to sell Mike McCarthy out and say we need to find a new head coach again, because it's way too early to be talking any of that.
I do like the emergence of, you said cookie, but I do like the emergence of a potential hashtag, and that's the way the Cowboys crumble. I do like that a lot. That's the way the Cowboy crumbles. Oh man, that's the way the Cowboy crumbles. That could be a hashtag for that Dak injury. That'd be terrible.
That would not be very nice.
Be in poor taste. But I'm not above it. Anyway, as far as Dallas goes, I think jumping on McCarthy's kind of like you said. The number of coaches that have come and gone and probably should have gone faster than they did get gone. I just always have found it interesting. What are these veteran coaches? Obviously it's a heck of a paycheck going to Dallas, especially if you're a guy being courted by the Cowboys, and there's no way you're going to turn that down. But I always wonder if, like, a guy like McCarthy's going in there with the mindset, like, I could be the coach that brought Dallas back. And darn well the media in Dallas and whose pockets, are being filled by who and who's doing what, that Jerry Jones is going to take complete credit for anybody that brings that team back to relevance. So, like, if there was one positive that would come out of a Cowboys Super Bowl win in my brain, that's the only one I can think of, is the fiasco of, like, who's responsible for it,
who takes credit, who gets the
but it's not going to happen, because until Jerry Jones is dead or leaves the team or relinquishes full control, it's going to continue to be the dumpster fire. And Jake brought up Wade Phillips. I will say this: Wade Phillips would have already thrown that defensive coordinator right out into the street. I'll tell you that much.
I loved Wade Phillips as a defensive coordinator. Do not get me
still
wrong.
Do.
I would take him back in a heartbeat.
Take anyone from the Phillips family. You can give him Wade Phillips' second cousin. I bet he knows more about defense than whoever's running Dallas's camp.
But I do not. I was speaking to him as a head coach. He was terrible as a head coach. Should have never been.
Did not go well.
No. Much like most head coaches in the last 25 years.
But yeah, Dallas needs to just, like, you wanted to see what McCarthy could do with the starting unit. You wanted to see what he could do with some talent there and see if he could guide it anywhere. It didn't quite look like it. Offensively, they look great. We don't know how inflated those stats were. But you got to give him another chance. Who are you going to go sign? there's not another Mike McCarthy available.
No.
So if you're going to try it with a veteran guy and you want him to build a system, for crying out loud, if Gruden can have as many years as he does out there in the desert, you may as well give him one more.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's move on here to the big four for this weekend. Four big games in the NFL that we're going to look at. I want to keep us up to date on our against the spread. You did better than you did in college, but you didn't do as good as me this week. I was 4-0 for 15-8 overall on the season. You were 3-1 to bring you in at 17-4. So I'm slowly climbing back here. Keeping it closer in the NFL. So we're going to start bye weeks this week. The Washington football team, the Arizona Cardinals, Jacksonville Jaguars, and Houston Texans. And an update here from the World Series. Tampa Bay still up 1-0 as the top of the fourth inning gets underway down there in Arlington. So we're going to start in Baltimore. The 6-0 Pittsburgh Steelers, first time they're 6-0 since 1978, I believe. And the last undefeated team as the Seahawks fell this week. Again, at the Baltimore Ravens, 5-1. They are a 4-point home favorite. 47 is the over-under. This one, 1 o'clock on CBS. Man, and I get it. Baltimore's coming off a bye week. They've had 2 weeks to prepare for this game. But if I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I do not, and if you know me, you know I do not like talking in any way, shape, or form favorably about any sports team from the city of Pittsburgh. But if I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers, I almost feel insulted that I am a 4-point underdog on the road. Like, I get you're getting 3, give or take, at home. I don't know how that works when there's no crowd, because there is still no crowd in Baltimore, I believe. If I'm the Steelers, I feel a little bit disrespected here. So I am none too happy. So I'm going to jump us off right away, Sean. I am going to go the under because I feel like the Steelers defense, the best way to win this game is to control the clock, run the ball, and slow the Baltimore offense down. But I'm going to go Steelers, not only to cover, they're going to win this game. And I'm actually...
You better lock it up. You better lock it up. No, you lock it up. You lock it up. Lock it up. Lock it up.
Steelers going to stay undefeated. I don't like it, but it's going to happen.
Locking it up.
Locking it up early.
Man, you think they're angry and they're embarrassed. And
I think
they're
they're
hurt.
angry and embarrassed, and I just hope Chase Claypool catches a lot of touchdowns too.
Well, I think those are 3 adjectives that are going to describe the Steelers this week, but I think it's going to be after they lose to the Baltimore Ravens. I think the Ravens end the undefeated stretch for the NFL. I think an extra week to prepare, not to mention the fact speed on defense, great pass rush, that kind of thing. Best way to combat that. Have that speedy quarterback. I think the Ravens have been kind of questioned. I think if the Ravens had been winning games the way that people expected them to, I think the spread is even larger. I think that small spread may kind of wake the Ravens up, be like, look what we're doing here. I like Baltimore's defense. I do like Chase Claypool to have a couple extra catches this week because I think just the type of routes he's going to run, I think they're going to try to get him the ball more. They're going to try to get him involved with the running game. I, too, am going to take the under, however. I think the 2 defenses. Now, could I see it going over if the running game starts to fail in Baltimore and they start heaving it downfield, or let Lamar Jackson be the only one that runs like they should? Maybe. But we're going to take the under. I'm going to take Baltimore to cover. Not going to lock this one because I think I have one coming up. But Ravens end your last undefeated streak in the NFL. All
right, then we go to Miami. It is Tua time as the 5-2 Los Angeles Rams, a 3.5-point road favorite, travel to Miami at 3-3, coming off the bye week. 49 is the over/under on this one. 1 o'clock on Fox. And again, like we talked about last week, excited to see what Tua can do. That's a guy, regardless of who you are a fan of, you can cheer for. But I even with the bye week, I feel like it is a bad choice to start him against this Rams defense. And that Rams offense looks like it's starting to click as well. So I'm going to go with the Rams to win this game. They're also going to cover that 3.5, but I'm actually going to take the under because I feel like Tua is going to struggle in his first game. So I'm actually taking the under the 49 there, Sean.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you here. I'm still, I think you and I are still on the same page as far as the Tua starting. I mean, I get it, but the fact that Fitzpatrick seemed blindsided by now, you think Fitzpatrick would be used to it by now, but like the Fitzpatrick when he was like, when he had his whole press conference, he's like, I'm disappointed or I'm sad or I'm depressed, like whatever his descriptor word was. It was like all these people started writing all these letters to him, like they feel bad for Fitz and like say, I'm like the guy's had this happen to him about 15 times.
Yeah,
like it happened to him more than pretty much anybody. We do have a why are they benching Fitz, and that's kind of was last week was
that was our discussion.
Our point.
Yeah.
And the only thing that makes sense is from day one, this was the week.
Right. It was
That's
the
only
bye week.
thing.
It was the bye week.
Have the bye week, and then your job's to get us to. But at that point, why is Fitz surprised by it?
Well, maybe it wasn't. Maybe they didn't discuss it with him. Maybe it wasn't something like, "Hey, Fitzy, you're going to take us to the like." Why would you do that before the season?
Right. Why is he going to try?
Right. Exactly. So, but maybe just internally between the coaching staff and management, they were like, "Hey, we're gonna take you to the bye week, and then we're gonna turn the keys over."
Can you just throw Jake's? Are you able to pull up get his popsicle stick quote, the Deontay Johnson quote on the screen? For those why this is hysterical. He followed it up by correcting the spelling. And then saying, I just learned how to spell popsicle. Yeah, we're not popping any sickle cells here. We're not doing any of that. You're not eating that. It's a dessert treat. It's a popsicle. We're not. If you were to popsicle,
Jake, you could have blamed it on autocorrect.
You should have just. You should just.
I mean, there's times I'll spell the word like, I'll spell food and it'll just change it to hood or something like.
Well, I type the word duck a lot.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm ducking a lot of things.
Ducking a lot of things in my text
especially when I'm talking about the Dallas Cowboys. It's really ducking weird how that works out.
Yeah. You're ducking more than the.
I feel like
their corners are making tackles.
A founder of quacking as well.
but I'm with you on this one. I don't think it's going to be a great start for Tua. I assume we're going to see a few plays. I think he has some escapability, so you may see some chances where the Rams over pursue, and if he can get somebody open, you may see Tua show some glimpses. But yeah, as far as benching Fitzpatrick, especially, in hindsight, like I know you can't change your mind going into this week, but with the Patriots looking as bad as they do, and the Bills winning on field goals against the New York Jets team. It's just, it's got to be killing. Like if you think this team, and I don't think the Dolphins are that bad. I think I was watching, with Jake, I was watching some football the woman, and I think the Dolphins are better than people think. The defense looks pretty good. I think there's some young receivers on that team, and I'm not talking about Parker that show a lot of promise. Not that Parker doesn't. I think Parker's still not quite as good as he was initially advertised or that people think he can be. But I think the rest of that team has some skill players, and Gesicki's great. If they can get a running game behind Tua going forward, I think this could be a good team. But I don't see any reason to change it up. Unfortunately, they are. And unfortunately for Tua, it's at a time where he's got to look across the line at Aaron Donald. And your number one target's going to be looking at Jalen Ramsey. And I don't think it's going to go well for him. I think the Rams defense picks up a score, maybe two. I think the Rams are going to win this with the points. I'm going to take them. I'll take the over just because I think the Rams offense and defense are both going to score points, and maybe Tua does enough to get them there. But as far as covering that spread and winning on the road in Miami, you can lock it up. You're locking up the Rams? I'm locking up. If you'd have told me I'd lock up McVay.
No, you better lock it up. No, you lock it up. You lock it up. Lock it up. Lock it up.
I'd have told you were crazy if you'd have told me I was going to use a lock on McVay at any point this year, but this is the one.
I think that's the right call. All right, two more. This one was originally going to be the Bears and the Saints, but based on what the Bears did last night, I changed it in the 11th hour. The Bears, ironically enough, are who we thought they were.
Stop it.
Or at least are who I thought they were.
They're who you thought they were.
Yeah, you had that. That's the one you got wrong last week. You bet.
Yeah, I got a little Foles happy.
You did.
Who could blame me? Like,
hey, he's hurt me in the past. He has helped you.
I've put I put a lot of stock in Foles, and I mean, I don't think everything that went wrong in that game is Foles' fault. No. There's not a great cast around him, but that's a team that needs. They ask a lot out of that defense every week. They put that defense in some really bad situations, and they, for the most part, have kept teams from scoring. That week, they just couldn't do it.
They could not. But I changed it. I changed it to this one. 3-3 Raiders coming off the bye. They traveled to the 5-2 Browns. Now sans Odell Beckham. Odell Beckham out for the year with the torn ACL. But honestly, if you look at that team, Baker's kind of looked better when Odell has not been on the field. Did that hurt one of your fantasy teams?
No, it's going to take more than 1 5-touchdown performance for me to start believing in Baker Mayfield.
I'm not saying I believe, but there's been times during the rest of this season that he has looked better when Odell's not on the field. Because say what you will, you can try. I know Browns fans are going to try and tell me that Odell's a team player and this and that. I think that's a fallacy. I think he is doing the typical number one receiver, bit of a diva receiver. Maybe I'm still mad because I hated him as a Giant.
Keyshawn Johnson, just throw me the damn ball.
It's one of those that get me the ball. And when he's not out there, he has free reign to kind of go everywhere else. But the Browns 3-point home favorite, 54 is the over-under on this one, 1:00 on CBS. I actually like the Browns here. I like the Browns to cover. That 3-point number is pretty close. If it was 5, 6, 7, maybe I'd tighten it up. Maybe I'd give the edge to the Raiders here, but I think the Browns are going to keep the momentum going, and they're going to get it here. So I have the Browns, and I'm going to take the over.
Yeah, I mean, you saw the 3-point spread in the Texas game. This one a little bit different, but I think there's no reason people are buying Las Vegas right now, especially against teams that are performing well offensively. So I think that 3-point spread is small. I think it wants people to bet on and buy in on the hype of the Browns. Let's not forget that 5-touchdown performance with or without OBJ is against the Bengals defense. The Bengals can score, and you knew you were going to have to score, especially because your defense was almost as porous as Dallas's. You were letting Joe Burrow just kind of move down the field at will. And I think, that was kind of a weird shootout. And I think what came down to it in the end is that game meant a lot more for Cleveland. I kind of talked to, I think, you before the game that if Cleveland loses to Cincinnati, it might be one of those. There's very few losses in the middle of a regular season that could be just franchise crushing. I feel like that would have been pretty close. I think for a I think when you're a team like the Browns, who people just got used to them being terrible, and then all of a sudden we're going to spend money, we're going to move here. You have all this talent, and it's like we're going to be right there. You know what I mean? Like we're going to challenge, and then you don't, and then we might not challenge, but we're going to be better. I think that loss to Cincinnati, you'd have seen a lot of things flying before the trade deadline. I think it would have been sell, sell, sell. It would have been like a pre-stock market crash scenario in Cleveland, and I think you would have seen him kind of dismantle and try to start over. The performance by Baker was admirable. I think I'll say it was impressive. It's more than I thought he would do, but I hope everybody that plays against me in fantasy picks him up because I don't think there's going to be a repeat performance. I think the Raiders are a good enough defensive team. It's going to be a little harder. I think not having to plan for an Odell Beckham, whatever you want to say about him asking for targets, it's one guy you don't have to account for. Jarvis Landry's already banged up. Rashard Higgins looked good. Some people are going, who's Rashard Higgins? And that's exactly why it's going to be a little tougher out there. They still favorite moment of the Cleveland Browns week is the fact that David Njoku, who complained all year about being behind Hooper out, and Njoku didn't start. They just jumped him. They were like, all right, next man up. And Njoku's like, I'm right here. They're like, just next.
But he caught a cut. He's caught a touchdown.
Go past the loudmouth. Get in there and play 80% of the snaps. Did get a touchdown out of it, I know. But anyway, I'm going to go the other way on this one. I think the Raiders, I like Derek Carr. I don't love Derek Carr. I do think he's better than Baker Mayfield. I feel like this is the kind of game.
Real high bar on that one.
It's not a very high bar, but he jumped over it. He cleared it. He clipped it on the way. It bounced a little bit, but it stayed up, so it counts. I think this is a great moment for if you're sitting on Henry Ruggs, this could be the game that he gets a deep ball. Gruden's system doesn't give a lot of deep balls, which makes that whole draft pick a little strange. But I think this might be a good one with kind of a banged up Jacobs, a running game that's been kind of sloppy. Maybe they decide to air it out a little bit to create some space. I think it goes over, and I'm taking John Gruden against the Browns.
There you go, Jake. Jake confident. He's with you, Sean. I'm going to give him this one.
I only get one lock, but give Jake the lock.
I'll give it to him.
You better lock it up. You better lock it up. No, you lock it up. You lock it up. Lock it up. Lock it up.
Jake wanted the lock. He got the lock. We give him the lock. And then lastly, the 4-3 San Francisco 49ers travel to Seattle to face the 5-1 Seattle Seahawks. They're a 3-point home favorite, 54. Also the over-under on this one at 425 on Fox. Man, for the first time in probably a while, Russell Wilson kind of looked human in this game. In a while. Russell Wilson kind of looked a little bit human there against in that game against Arizona. Every team in the West has a better record than every team in the East, by the way. It just shows you how bad the NFC East is. But I like the Seattle struggle here, and maybe it's because I just hate Pete Carroll. I don't know, so I'm going to roll with San Francisco not only to beat the spread, but also pick up the win and put Seattle at 5-2, and put San Francisco right back in the hunt there for the division title. And I'm going to take the over 2, also because I have George Kittle, and I'd like him to start scoring touchdowns again, please, that he didn't this past week. So San Francisco and the over.
San Fran and the over. Well, you're wrong. It was cute. It was nice, but you're wrong. Look, Russell Wilson. Yeah, did he look a little human in that game? Sure. Do I think Arizona's defense is incredibly underrated? Yes. I think that they're a good defensive unit. I think the secondary there is a lot better. You know, when people are talking about secondaries in the NFL, I don't think people really look out in the desert. Maybe it's because the Raiders are there. I don't know. But there is another team out there in Arizona that's pretty good, and they have a quarterback that's pretty good. Do I think Kyler Murray is the next Russell Wilson? No, I don't think he's near as good of a thrower as Russell Wilson. I learned a couple things in last week's game. It's that whether or not you think Russell Wilson looked human, he still throws the best deep ball in the NFL. If the throw's over 45 yards, he's going to hit it on a dime. It doesn't matter what you do. Patrick Peterson had perfect coverage twice, and Russell Wilson put it exactly where Patrick Peterson wasn't twice. To two different receivers. It's not like timing with one. It's like it could be Metcalf, it could be Lockett, it could be Moore, it could be Disley.
DK Metcalf isn't human, right? We can at least
DK Metcalf. Say DK Metcalf one more time. Well, I got to watch J.C. Arcega-Whiteside ride on a bench behind Travis Fulgham. Arcega-Whiteside beyond that fumble recovery this year, I'm not even sure he's been on the field. I don't even know if he has a catch. I'm going to look it up before the end of the show, whether Arcega-Whiteside actually has a catch in a regular season game this year, despite everyone being dead. 2 offensive starters at the end of 2 weeks ago for the Philadelphia Eagles. Arcega-Whiteside not on the field. So back to Russell Wilson. I think the league wants a 49ers win here. I think the league wants you to be right. I think that Vegas wants you to be right. I think some parity in the West is what they want. I think they got that parity last week when Arizona beat them. I think a banged up 49ers team and a team that really hasn't found its identity in its wide receiver core to this point is going to struggle. It's a very porous defense for Seattle, at least for the course of the season. Now, I think they have tightened that up quite a bit, and it's still not great, but I think it's way better than it was. And that defensive front's a lot better than people think it. I think the running game is something that has trouble getting going. So that's going to kind of be the test. I think if San Francisco has trouble running the ball, it's going to be real hard. And if Seattle has trouble stopping the run, it's going to be very hard. So I do see a scenario where San Francisco wins this game. I don't think it's going to happen because I think even if Seattle has limited control of the ball, they have the right guy for the job. And Russell Wilson, with that deep ball and with his ability to kind of evade pass rushers, I think this is one where Seattle makes the statement out west and comes back as people start to doubt them and says, "Don't forget, we're still the team to beat out here." I'm going to take Seattle. I'm going to take Seattle with the points. And looking at that 54 number, I'm going to go over with you.
Yeah, I think it's smart. I think both these offenses can score. Like I said, for me, it's kind of twofold because I hope it's a bit of George Kittle action because he has been a little not what I expected when I used a keeper on him in one league, but it is what it is. Checking in finally.
Sounds like the year I kept DeMarco Murray for the Titans, and then they were like, "Oh, we have this Derrick Henry guy," and I'm like, "Wait, who? You're going to give him the ball this time?" And DeMarco Murray's just like,
Who?
"I don't have anything."
No, I actually still have a DeMarco Murray Dallas Cowboys jersey.
Good for you.
I forgot he even went to Tennessee. Yeah,
it's true.
Speaking of Tennessee, look, I know they had a little bit of a comeback there. I think that was more about Pittsburgh laying off the gas.
Was it?
I feel like it was.
Stop doubting Tennessee.
They are not as good as people think they are.
Close wins are wins.
I'm going to stick to that. They are wins, absolutely. And, because like the Dallas Cowboys over the years have been a team that loses close games, not wins close games. And I'm not saying Tennessee's not good. I mean, they went to the freaking AFC title game last year. But I think people trying to crown them when they were 5-0, people trying to crown them as the best or one of the best in the AFC.
Okay, first of all, I don't know how many people were claiming they were the best team in the AFC. I mean, if they were the only undefeated team left, you'd have something to stand on, but they weren't even the best undefeated team. No. I never said they were better than other teams.
No,
I just was discrediting the fact that you're telling me that they're like you made it sound drastically overrated. I don't think the Titans are drastically overrated. I think they still catch teams by surprise even when they are undefeated. People are like, "Oh, it's just the Titans." They just assume that it's like this Oilers, Titans, like whatever history.
I'm happy Tannehill's putting up points because when Dak Prescott's ankle exploded, he was my backup quarterback in fantasy. So I'm totally fine with him throwing as many touchdowns as he can. So I
think Ryan Tannehill is proving that he's not the man that was in Miami. He's the man that's in Tennessee.
Yeah,
with an offense that like caters to his needs and actually gives him weapons and a running game to take some pressure off. It's amazing what someone can do when you actually aren't dying every play.
And they are a great comeback team. That's been like the story of the Tennessee Titans since they moved to Tennessee. But real quickly, Sean, still top of 5. The Tampa Bay Rays still leading 1-0. Let's assume,
one run to none.
1 run to none. Let's assume that they hold on and win this game. Crystal balled a little bit. I believe Game 7 is that going to be tomorrow? If Game 7's a thing, let me pull that up here real quick. Yeah, it'd be tomorrow night. Wednesday night would be Game 7. Will Tampa complete the comeback, or will the Dodgers win the World Series? Because I think, did you and I both have Tampa Bay winning the World Series in our predictions?
Well, I know it wasn't the preseason ones, but in the playoff predictions, we both had them in the World Series. I'm not sure I made a World Series prediction when we did our pre-show. I had Tampa in there against the Cubs.
Remember. That was like 3 weeks, 3 months ago, but time's irrelevant anymore.
Yeah, time just there's no time.
No,
there's no time. But if you're asking me, will they pull off the comeback? The answer is no, because I made that change. I didn't even have him in because technically Dave took the Rays, and then I was like, I hate you, Dave. It's going to be the Astros. I really thought the Astros were going to pull it off, and I think they just kind of ran out of steam in Game 7. But Dave was right. No, he wasn't.
No, he wasn't.
No, he wasn't.
That holds true.
The only reason he even picked Tampa is because he thought I went to Houston, and he's like, I'll take Tampa to win the whole. He just went opposite me. So the whole Dave was wrong has turned into Sean is wrong. But No, I think Tampa's had enough struggles in this. I mean, the fact that they're even here. I don't mean in the World Series. They have every right to be in the World Series. They've played great ball all year. The thing that's happened in this World Series, the fact that they've made it to this game is pretty baffling to me. I mean, this is a team that for a good part of the season, one of the reasons I love them enough to put them in the World Series is because they do such a great job of playing the small ball and using the bullpen, and they kind of work the field. And I think the farther into the playoffs it's gone, these guys are starting to struggle. You're facing good pitching every day. You're not facing five guy rotations rather. And I think it's kind of cost them. I think their batting averages have dropped as they've worked their way through. And some of that is the long ball helped them early. And I think everybody wants to be the next hero. The only runs I'm really seeing score in this World Series are long ball. It's just kind of crazy that it's, between these two teams who both have unbelievable capacity to manufacture runs. But if you're the Dodgers, you kind of need that long ball because the Rays I'll give them this. The Rays are probably the best defensive team in Major League Baseball. But when you have that defensive, you're keeping scoring low. You don't need to be driving in home runs every time. But they also haven't seen a lot of pitching staffs this way. But it's been an exciting World Series. We got a Brandon Lowe needs to start hitting again. Brandon Lau, rather. It's Lau, right? It looks like Lowe, but it's Lau.
Rob Lau.
Rob Lau from Tommy Boy. Rob Lau.
Brandon Lau.
Anyway, Rob Lowe, Brandon Lau. Either way, like wow. Lau, like wow.
Wow.
Wow. Anyway, Lau, like wow.
Lau.
Yeah, Lau's been, but he, without that one game from Lau, you would have, you wouldn't even be at this point. He had the big multi-home run game out of nowhere, and I'll give it to the coaching staff and Gian and the guys. They know what to do with their lineup. It changes all the time. It's very rare in the postseason to see the lineup and the rotations and the defensive and like just situational things that shift for Tampa. And I think it's just kind of that knowledge that you're up against it. You're up against a wall of salary and a wall of talent. And you're going to try to take advantage of any little bit of swing that they give you. So I will give them that. I think they're a crafty organization, a crafty team, a good defensive team, but I don't see them. I don't really see them winning today's game. I'd be shocked if the Dodgers score 0. You're going to need more than one to do it, in my opinion.
You're going to have to score more runs tonight.
Yeah, I think you're going to need more than one. The Dodgers have shown me in this that innings 7, 8, and 9 are very legitimate scoring innings. Now, Tampa does have a bullpen with a full day of rest, so that does help them. Those guys, they like to piece them in like all the time. You'll see like 3 pitching changes in an inning out of Tampa if need be. So, but yeah, come Game 7, if it comes down to it, I think it's a chance for Kershaw. I assume he would be the guy.
Rewrite his history,
like to come in and basically have a chance to win 3 games in a series and shut everybody up. Now the pressure is going to be on him, but I'm not so sure it needs to get to that point. I think somebody's going to step up. And if you want a bold prediction, it's Muncy.
I'm going to go if the Rays can win tonight. If the Rays can hold on and win tonight, and they give it to Kershaw tomorrow, I say he is going to fold quicker than a Dollar Tree beach chair under my fat ass, and the Rays are going to win Game 7.
That's incredibly fast.
That is it. That is incredibly fast, by the way. But
what's faster, that scenario or DK Metcalf tracking down an interception?
DK Metcalf.
Metcalf's still faster than that dollar chair folding on your ass.
22.67 miles per hour was his top speed in that run. And like, dude, it was like if you
I told a student earlier this week that you can't outrun an alligator. DK Metcalf can.
He probably could. I'd give him the money. I'd give him
in a straight line would outrun an alligator.
Like and like the I've never seen a run like as violent, as powerful as that run. Like
I wish I had a better camera angle of the view.
My God.
on the safety's face when he turned around, because it's a great reaction shot of him turning around, and it's just like
man, that's a good question, Jake.
That depends. Is Metcalf chasing anyone? Or
Well,
is he just running?
Are we talking Bolt now, or are we talking Bolt height of powers? Because if we're talking height of powers, Bolt's going to.
Yeah,
Bolt,
if we're talking like.
But if we're talking now,
Bolt, not even close.
Like he's older. He's had COVID. I don't know if he's like totally healed up. I don't, But height of power, yeah. I mean, dude, Metcalf, like he is just a monster. And like I don't like Seattle, but I do love the fact that the Eagles.
Wait, who got COVID?
Usain Bolt had COVID back in like.
Oh yeah. That's
way
right.
back at the beginning.
I thought he was talking about Metcalf, like he just saw.
Oh yeah, no.
He know more than I do. What's happening?
No. Yeah, Metcalf is the best.
How'd you find that out?
I don't think somebody who's not human can get COVID. Like I don't think Metcalf. I think he's like a cyborg.
No, COVID comes into his body and his cells just chase it down.
Right. They run it out of the building.
They run it. They catch COVID coming in and just.
But yeah, it's just, man, Metcalf is he's so fast. But yeah, I think
anyway.
But yeah, I think if Tampa can win tonight, I like them to keep the momentum going. And
do you think they're going to win tonight? It's 1-0. You have a 1-run lead. Do you think they're going to win today?
I actually don't. I think the Dodgers are going to find a way to win this game. So
the folding chair is safe.
Folding chair safe.
Okay.
As safe as a Dollar Tree folding chair can be. I look at this series as a whole, and you had and don't get me wrong, fun as hell. This series, and especially that ending the other night with the Rays player like tripping.
Unreal.
Rounding third and
after like two, it looked like a little league team fielding a ball that like they put the wrong guy in right, and he's just like jumbling the ball, and then he like throws it in, and like the cutoff guy kind of wants it but doesn't. It looked horrendous. It was for a team with that payroll and as good as those defensive players are. It was just a scenario where it's like, how did Tampa just? Because I stayed up and I'm watching this. I'm like, really? That's the ending I get? Is like just a bunch of buffoonery? I mean, it's very exciting, but it was exciting buffoonery, is what it was.
Yeah, I mean, it's entertaining, and
if the Dodgers do lose the series, I don't like to point at one moment.
That's the one.
But that's the one. You had a good pitching performance. You fought your butt off to like get back, kind of on top. Once your bats woke up, got you back into the game. You get ready, and then. Just here you go,
and that's why
we took this from you. You can have it back.
Honestly, and this is not a shot at Tampa Bay, but the Dodgers are the better team.
A Rosarena fast like hyena, Jake.
Come on, man.
Don't try to look. You can't rewrite history, and you can't rewrite something as good as a Rosarena by any other name. Just stick with what you hit the winner. Just hold on to it as long as you can.
But the Dodgers are the better team. I think they find a way to win tonight, and everybody for baseball looks forward to next year, whatever that may look like. We've seen. I think the NHL has since the last time we were on the air canceled or postponed the Winter Classic and All-Star games for next year. They're still not even sure when the season's going to start. NBA targeting late December, but. Otherwise, Sean, I think we're good here. I will say this.
Hey, we almost forgot the fantasy irrelevant touchdown of the
week. Oh
yeah,
let's hit that. I mean, because we don't know who any of these people are.
Right, it's irrelevant. Who is he? Where'd he come from? I gotta somehow put together some kind of jingle for this segment so we don't forget it. For those not paying attention, fantasy irrelevant touchdown of the week brought to you by me. I'm the one that came up with it, and I'm the one that comes up with the players. But if this guy scored, it helped no one. We're looking for the touchdown that helped the least number of people, the least number of times. And it was a very busy week for the fantasy irrelevant touchdown. Not even honorable mentions was a Deontay Harris. We had a Wayne Gallman. We almost had the opportunity to get someone named Joe Reed for the Chargers in there, had a touchdown on the ground. But the names that I picked, even better. We had an honorable mention from a Juszczyk in San Francisco. Would have been a back-to-back. He won it last week.
There we go. I was going to say, he's not going to win back-to-back.
Because I think my fantasy irrelevant made someone sign him, and they got the touchdown. But third place, we had a LaMichael Perrine rushing touchdown for the Jets. And anytime the Jets score a touchdown, it's going to be a candidate for my top 3. So that was number 3. Number 2, number 2.5 was a Baker Mayfield. If you started him, God bless you. You were hurting for a person to put in there. But through to a Peoples Jones, who, by the way, one of my favorite names in the NFL. I think Peoples Jones.
Michigan man. Don't forget Michigan man.
The people versus case versus the state versus the Peoples Jones. I don't know. You got to come up with something. I'll figure it out. By the way, he didn't even get number 2 because Mayfield threw 2 touchdowns to someone named Harrison Bryant. Yeah, you can take him if you want. That's Harrison Bryant with 2 touchdowns. And you'd think that would be the largest fantasy score for a fantasy relevant touchdown that could have ever possibly happened, but you'd be wrong because while all the fantasy experts told people to start Jerick McKinnon and perhaps a Hasty, they forgot that there was someone coming off the bench, coming off the injured reserve. Jeff Wilson puts up 112 yards and 3 touchdowns on literally no one's starting roster. That is your fantasy irrelevant performance of the week.
Who the hell is this?
Oh, so yeah, okay. So I own a Jerick McKinnon in at least one league. I know you do as well.
Yes.
Did you see the update from the 49ers today?
Where they were just like, we were resting him.
They said he took it was a planned week off. You know when that would have been a great thing to find out? Fucking Sunday morning.
Yeah. Tell me the day before they got, we're just going to rest him.
He's going to take the week off. I have
Make
other
him
running
inactive.
backs. Yeah,
Why is he even on
the field? Well,
he played 3 snaps, ran for -2 yards.
You know, these are the things I would have liked to have known Sunday morning. Now, I think the league I had him in, I was okay. I still won.
Yeah,
but
the league I started him in, I happened to have Justin Herbert and Devontae Adams. I was just fine.
Yeah, but that's the kind of bullshit that separates playoffs from none, okay? So San Francisco, Kyle Shanahan, I know you listen to this show. Get your shit together. Tell me when guys are taking a week off.
You're darn right.
Off. I'm fine. Give him a week off.
And you know Jerick McKinnon's going to be the starter this week, so whatever. We had a question. Jake wants to know, no Boston Scott. Here's the situation. For it to be fantasy relevant means nobody has a start. You got a lot of folks scrambling for running backs out there. You got a lot of folks that lost Miles Sanders. And those people, either people with Miles Sanders or people that caught it on the waiver wire, picked him up and started him. So it didn't catch as many people by surprise.
Jake's my man. We know what's up.
Yeah. And that I wanted him
probably because I played Boston.
Probably because I would have had him in for my Miles Sanders.
And here's the thing. Also, the league
Wayne Gallman was your fantasy irrelevant touchdown from Thursday.
The league you and I are in, people abuse waivers because I was the number 3. I used Boston Scott. And we were a 12-team league. I'm already back to number 5.
Yeah, I'm disappointed because I kind of
people use waivers like ad drops in our league, and I'm fine.
Well, yeah.
I'm totally fine with it.
Yeah, I used it on Claypool, fell down, and now I'm just like, well, I'm 12th. I'll just keep.
Yeah, no, I looked at it today. 5th. I'm 5th.
You're 5th. I should just not sign anybody. Then I have one in. I'll just cancel it.
I got Boston Scott, and I don't have any this week. I'll tell you that. Spoiler
Your
alert.
league has taught me patience. I will give you that. Your league has taught me that, like, if I want to hold on to that waiver priority, am I really going to start the guy that I'm signing? And if the answer is no, see if he's there on Wednesday.
Like I said, I did it for Boston Scott because I needed Boston Scott, and it paid off. I'm still number 2 in that league. Right. Let's see here, but Jake says Claypool the biggest bust waiver. Wow.
He might be. I think that would be more to do with the hype that came in. That 4 touchdowns. Is he going to hit that? No.
I don't think he's going to put up a lot of 40-point weeks.
But does he have the capacity to kind of replace Deontay Johnson in his role?
Well,
the fact that Deontay Johnson can never stay healthy will help that.
Yeah, he's as durable as a pop pick.
I mean, Claypool, you're going to have your down weeks. I think Claypool's going to be down the stretch as valuable as any other receiver on that team. So, in my situation, I just
we're Notre Dame fans. We know that guy can catch everything.
He can catch everything, and he's real tall, and he's real fast.
Yeah.
Something that none of the other 2 guys on that receiving core have all of. So I like his chances, and he's the kind of guy that would I keep him around in the keeper league? Maybe Fragile. Fragile. But yeah, that's my take on Claypool. That's my little take on fantasy. And your fantasy irrelevant Jeff Wilson Jr. Fantasy irrelevant touchdowns.
Who the hell is this?
No one
All
knows.
right, we are going to close this one up. Another good week. Make sure you're following along with us on social media. Of course, Sean, they can follow you at Sean Shine State. And we will say this programming note. Obviously, next Tuesday night, pretty big night in the country, but we will be here. And I feel like you're gonna need a distraction.
Yeah,
next Tuesday night. So come here, listen to us talk sports for a few hours. The things that are gonna happen, they're gonna happen either way. And let's be honest, we're probably not gonna know next Tuesday. We're probably not gonna know. It's COVID. There's a lot of mail-in votes, things like that. So you're probably not going to know next week. So just come over here. Come join us next week. Talk some sports with us. Everything will be fine. We're all going to need the distraction next Tuesday night. So follow him at Sean Shine State. You can follow me at Big Jim Sports. Make sure you're following along with the show. You can see it there in the video. Subscribe to us. Go to any of our social media. Hit the link tree and get all the places. And make sure you go to our home network, NGSC Sports. Stick with us here at the end of the show for the ad from our sponsor. But until next week, stay safe, stay smart, and go for the win. Huddle Up Podcast is sponsored by Arena Eats. Log on to the website arenaeats.app. That's arenaeats.app for the ultimate fan experience. At your favorite sports venue, Arena Eats mobile app, pre-order, express pickup, and in-seat delivery. How do you place your order?